All right, if you've got your sights set on that PNP certification for 2026, then you have landed in the perfect spot. Seriously, this isn't just about preparing for an exam, it's about getting way ahead of a massive shift in the world of project management. We're here to bridge the gap between the PMBOK 7 principles you might know and the huge updates coming with PMBOK 8. Welcome to Episode 0, your official 2026 PMP exam strategy. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about the 2026 PMP catalyst, what's driving this huge change. Then we'll uncover the DNA of success. This is your secret weapon. After that, we'll get into the mechanics of mastery, how to actually use these principles. We'll connect it all to the future with bridging to PMBOK 8, and finally, we'll lay out your certification blueprint. Let's dive right in. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the 2026 PMP catalyst. Before you can solve a problem, you've got to understand it, right? And what we're looking at here isn't just a problem. It's a massive shift, a huge opportunity that every single PMP candidate is about to face. Okay, check this out. See that date? July 9, 2026. You're going to want to circle that one on your calendar because that is the day the PMP exam completely transforms. The blueprint for the test, what they call the exam content outline, or ECO, it changes. And just look at the difference. The business environment domain, it goes from being a tiny 8% slice of the exam all the way up to 26%. That's not just a little bump, that's an absolute explosion. So what does this all mean for you? Well, it means that rote memorization is officially dead, gone, over. Over 80% of the questions now are situational. They're going to put you in a scenario and ask, what do you do next? The only way to consistently get these right is by truly mastering the PMI mindset. And that mindset, it's built entirely on the 12 principles we're about to unpack. They're not just nice to knows anymore. They are your compass for every single question. All right, so we've laid out the challenge. The big question is, how do we tackle it? Well, that brings us right to our solution. Section 2, the DNA of success. Think of these 12 principles as the genetic code behind every single correct answer on that new exam. This is the stuff you absolutely have to internalize. To nail this exam, you have to speak the language of the Project Management Institute fluently. These 12 principles are your vocabulary. So let's go through them one by one. Number 1, be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. 2, create a collaborative project team environment. 3, effectively engage with stakeholders. 4, focus on value. 5, recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions. And 6, demonstrate leadership behaviors. And we're just getting started. Let's continue with the second half. Number 7, tailor based on context. 8, build quality into processes and deliverables. 9, navigate complexity. 10, optimize risk responses. 11, embrace adaptability and resiliency. And finally, number 12, enable change to achieve the envisioned future state. Trust me, internalizing this exact language is the key to everything. So you might be thinking, okay, I get it, I need to know these principles, but how does knowing a list word for word actually help me pass the test? That is a great question, and it's exactly what we're going to break down in our next section, the mechanics of mastery. Let's see how this really works. This flowchart right here, it lays it out perfectly. Imagine you're taking the exam. You get a really tricky situational question, a whole scenario to unpack with 4 answers that all look kind of plausible. So what do? You take that scenario and you run it through this filter, your deep verbatim knowledge of those 12 principles. And what comes out the other side? The one correct decision. It's almost like a cheat code. And here's why it's so incredibly effective. It gives you the reasoning, the why behind the correct choice. When you see a tough question asking what the project manager should do first, the principles are your guide. But maybe even more importantly, they let you spot the wrong answers instantly. Any option that goes against a core principle, you know without a doubt that it's a distractor. You can just cross it off the list and move on. It's an absolute game changer for your confidence and your speed. And listen, this isn't just about passing a test and then forgetting everything. What we're talking about here is actually future-proofing your career. In this next section, we're going to look at how mastering PMBOK 7 is your bridge to what's coming next with PMBOK 8. This is all about staying relevant for years to come. I love this visual of the bridge. Think about it. PMBOK 7 and its 12 principles, that's the solid pillar on this side of the gap. It's your foundation. It's what gets you started on the journey. As we move across that bridge towards PMBOK 8 and the new 2026 exam, those principles don't just disappear. No way. They get consolidated, they evolve, but their core essence, their DNA, is still the bedrock of absolutely everything. So what's waiting for us on the other side of that bridge? Well, it's a formalized, official focus on two huge areas: AI-driven project management and sustainability, or what you'll hear called ESG. That stands for environmental, social, and governance. What this really means is that as a project leader, you are now on the hook for the wider impact of your work. The takeaway here is huge. You're not just managing tasks anymore, you are a strategic leader delivering real, sustainable value. Okay, theory is great, but how do we actually do all this? How do we put it into practice and make it happen? That brings us to our final and maybe most important section, your certification blueprint. I want you to think of this series as your personal step-by-step project plan to get you certified. And we've laid it all out for you, a complete roadmap broken into 4 clear phases. We're going to start by diving deep into the principles focused on people and leadership. From there, we'll tackle process and that all-important new business environment domain. Then we've got a special deep dive on the future, sustainability, and AI to tie it all together. And we'll wrap it all up with a full-blown mock exam and case study walkthrough so you can see it all in action. It is literally your step-by-step guide to get you across that finish line. So where do we begin this journey? Our very next explainer is all about principle number 1, stewardship. We are going to break down what it really means to be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. And let me tell you, this is not some fluffy, feel-good concept. It is the rock-solid ethical core of the entire PMP mindset. Look, that July 9th deadline is coming up faster than you think, so don't get caught flat-footed. Here's your action plan. Hit that subscribe button right now so you do not miss a single step of this 2026 roadmap.
Learning reinforcement. Decoding the 2026 PMP, the Mindset Matrix.
On July 9th, 2026, the PMP certification adopts a completely new testing framework, fundamentally changing how professionals must prepare. Passing this exam through the memorization of standard inputs, tools, and outputs has officially ended. This details the new exam content outline. The test writers tripled the weight of the business environment domain to 26%, balancing against people at 33% and process at 41%. This demands candidates prioritize long-term business value over tactical task supervision. Look at the distribution here. Over 80% of the new exam questions discard direct knowledge checks in favor of ambiguous situational scenarios. Because situational scenarios now dominate the test, the traditional focus on rote memorization lacks the flexibility required to reach a passing score. So, how do you logically deduce the correct answer in an ambiguous scenario without a step-by-step process map? You rely on the 12 principles of PMBOK 7. These principles act as the mechanical filters used by exam writers to evaluate your judgment. Success requires mastery of their exact phrasing. PMI uses this verbatim terminology in the correct answer choices to signal the intended path. The 12 principles provide the specific, undeniable logic required for every single situational decision you face on the exam. We can construct a mindset matrix to solve these scenarios, beginning with the human element. The structure requires 3 initial pillars. Principle 1 establishes the ethical baseline. Be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. Principle 2 dictates internal group dynamics. You are required to create a collaborative project team environment. Principle 3 focuses outward. You must effectively engage with stakeholders. PMI distinguishes engagement from management. It requires active, continuous participation from stakeholders throughout the project lifecycle. Human-centric leadership is the mandatory foundation. If a process is executed at the expense of the human element, the exam will mark the answer as incorrect. The matrix then expands from individual interactions to broader organizational impact. Principle 4 focuses on the delivery of value to the business, which takes precedence over the mere completion of deliverables. Principle 5 requires you to recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions. Projects never execute in isolation. A schedule change in engineering ripples through procurement and marketing. You must account for those systemic effects. Principle 6 dictates that you demonstrate leadership behaviors. This applies at all organizational levels, regardless of formal title. An answer choice that prioritizes an isolated project task while compromising systemic business value is incorrect. With strategy defined, the framework governs how you execute on the ground. Principle 7 is an absolute rule. Tailor based on context. A single rigid process is never applicable to every environment. Principle 8 mandates that you
build quality into processes and deliverables during execution, rather than inspecting for errors after the fact. Principle 9 sets the expectation that you must navigate complexity. You are expected to proactively navigate through complexity, rather than attempting to avoid or suppress it. Blindly following a standard operating procedure without any contextual tailoring is a frequent failure trigger on the 2026 exam. The structure is completed by addressing project resilience. Principle 10 moves beyond identifying threats to the requirement that you optimize risk responses. Principle 11 requires you to embrace adaptability and resiliency, a concept heavily tested in high-stakes hybrid environments. Principle 12 states the ultimate objective, to enable change to achieve the envisioned future state. Here is how you use this completed matrix. You will face questions asking, what should the project manager do first? The exam supplies distractor answers. These are often plausible real-world actions that violate one of the 12 principles. You expose the trap by applying the matrix. By matching the verbatim text against the distractor, you strike through the error. If an answer choice ignores stakeholder input to save schedule time, it violates Principle 3. It is objectively wrong. Mastery of these exact phrases provides a repeatable filter to identify the correct answer in any scenario. As the 2026 exam maps to PMBOK 8, the 12 principles consolidate into 6. The structure condenses, but the intent remains identical. The business environment domain's expansion is driven by two critical additions: artificial intelligence and ESG, environmental, social, and governance, now a formal sustainability metric. You are graded on your responsibility for long-term strategic value and future global impacts. To navigate this testing landscape, we have developed a 14-episode roadmap. The sequence moves logically. We start with the people domain, build through process execution, and integrate ESG. Episode 14 serves as the final assessment, a full mock exam walkthrough and real-world case study. Evaluate your testing timeline. Are you aiming to test before July 9th, 2026? Or are you preparing for the new content outline? The preparation starts in the next video with Principle 1, Stewardship, where we analyze the specific ethics of the PMP mindset. Learning these principles step by step is the path to securing your certification and leading in this new environment.